That's what I thought. That's all right. We'll have a staff heavy meeting this morning, and that is cool. All right, so why don't we just go ahead and get started on the town hall? I don't, who's the point person to walk us through some of these details? Do we?
I mean, I can. We talked about it a lot last week. People had a lot of thoughts. Tika and Ray, in particular, which they're not on yet, or I don't know if they can join, but they gave a lot of feedback, which was helpful.
Okay.
So for the town hall,
for that. Great.
Thought probably our basic 2 hours, welcome and introductions. And then each work group, probably the co-chairs, would give a presentation sort of on their recommendations as they are before their, final on the 10th, but as final as they can be on December 2nd. And that's 30 minutes total, so maybe 10 minutes each of just straight presentation.
Okay.
And then Ray thought it would be a good idea to do Q&A like with the entire group, whoever shows up for the town hall, like a sort of just facilitated, I don't know if it'd be public comment and answer or more just a Q&A, like I'm not exactly sure, but something like that with the entire group. And then she thought it'd be helpful if we also did breakouts with, I think for a shorter amount of time, but a few different breakouts. All the breakouts would have the same questions, like there would be a facilitator. All the breakouts would have the same questions.
Okay.
It would just be a time for like maybe more concentrated like feedback. So that was definitely her vision.
Okay. That sounds good. I've definitely seen that format. I think that the small breakout groups definitely can generate some feedback that straight public comment wouldn't, but I do have a couple questions. Would we stream this to Facebook, which I guess can maybe be awkward with breakouts, but and for more engagement and sort of permanence? And would we have a straight public comment period just for folks who wanted to get something on the record? Those are my two questions. I mean, maybe that's not necessary, but I don't know if we just want to. So are Tika and Ray really taking the lead on coordinating the structure? I mean, I know Tika was essentially charged with that.
I think last week they had the most feedback about it. And I just sort of took what they said and wrote it out. I think it sounds good, but maybe I agree with you about like just Q&A versus straight public comment or both. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's a question. It's not necessarily a preference. I just wonder if people would like come with prepared comments if they had them, and if we think that we need to make space for that. I don't know that, but again, I think enough people would come maybe just to listen, that it is good to have. I know Ray's really well-versed on that sort of breakout style where you're soliciting as opposed to just waiting for someone to step up and speak out, which I think is important if we're trying to get less represented groups to respond to our recommendations.
I was gonna say, I think it also matters on how we frame what this town hall is. If we just say it's a town hall to get feedback on the consortium and its recommendations, I think that's more of a back and forth open comment in addition to the recommendations. But if we say it's just on the recommendations thus far, it's a little different. We can put time at the end. I think it's however we want to frame it. I can go either way. But does that make sense?
Say more about the distinction between the two things. You said it's about the Reading recommendations versus so far. You mean like if we're saying we're looking for feedback on where we go to the future versus just let's talk about these 3 sets of recommendations? Because I was thinking it was the latter for sure.
Just the 3 sets of recommendations.
I mean, I'm sure folks will have other things to say that aren't specifically targeted to those recommendations. I think that's natural that occurs. But I also think to the extent that we can really focus it on we have
Right.
things that we're trying to move forward right now, and we need to know what you think about these things right now, to make sure we're on the right track. And then I think there are future opportunities for a broader discussion about, and what next, or we
Mhm.
should say that at the end of this conversation,
Yeah.
this is the beginning, and, there's a lot more ground we can cover, and we want to make sure you continue to engage with us as we chart that course.
Mhm. That makes sense.
I see a comment from Amy about making sure that folks have access to the recommendations so they can review them, and so that that's clear, I guess, through, whether it's a Facebook post about the event, link to where those are. I know are they all on the website already, Haley?
Well, it depends on what you mean by recommendations. I mean, the educator recommendations have been on the website in all their iterations, but like the other work groups aren't there yet, like in terms of like concrete ones. So I think it just depends, like by December 1st, of course, ideally would love to have all 3 sets of recommendations up on the website for feedback, but I don't know how possible that is. I can't speak for the social determinants actually, but for funding,
What about
we
the
have
high
our
level
next-
overview from the prior meeting at least? Because we have that. We
Yeah.
have that PowerPoint. I think like at least we can
Definitely.
do that to start with.
Yeah. Yeah, there's definitely plenty of stuff written. Just I don't know if it would be new or like
Right.
all
Are
packaged
the
yet.
co-chairs each going to have a PowerPoint during their 10 minutes probably?
That's what I was thinking.
So maybe as soon as those are ready, we can swap them out for the one from the prior meeting. You know what I mean? But I think the sooner we can have something up, if we have sort of a section for the town hall, like here's what's being proposed, and then we can maybe add an update as available, and hopefully it'll be, at least, I don't know if a week before is realistic, but before.
Probably not because we're furloughed.
Yeah. I know. I'm going to speak a week, and we'll hope for a couple days at the, but as long as we have something for people to sink their teeth into, which is, essentially the same as what the full consortium had access to in October. I think that's at minimum what we should be providing. And then
Absolutely.
we don't expect anything to be radically different in what's being presented in their PowerPoints on that night, from my understanding. Okay.
Might just take some past PowerPoints and put them together.
I think that sounds about right.
Good work.
But yeah, so I think the sooner we can put that up. And what do you think about the Facebook Live? I've seen Facebook Lives go into breakout and just sort of go blank and be like, we'll be back in a minute. But do you think that we should? I mean, I'm just concerned about making sure that we're not limiting access to the conversation, and we can see some interesting things. I was watching PTA's conference last night, for example, on school reopening. And it seemed pretty well attended, and they managed it pretty well. They weren't taking direct feedback from Facebook, although it was there, because they had sort of a whole separate registration for the Zoom based conference, which seemed like a fair way to manage it, I guess. But then of course it gives them something to look at after and see if there's any, but anyway, I mean, to me, it seems like not a heavy lift to have it broadcast there, right?
Yeah, we can do that.
I think it just gives us a better likelihood of picking up people who didn't plan to be there.
And we can always post the Zoom information in the comment below it if people want to join in from Zoom as well. So it could be 2 different ways to get them in.
And join the breakouts and stuff. Great. That's a great idea. And I don't know what these other things mean, Screencastify and Padlet. I don't know what those are.
Oh, the Screencastify was about what you were saying, because when you do a breakout, it only records the host's breakout. It doesn't, so like even afterwards, or if someone on Facebook Live wouldn't be able to see everything that's going on. So Dawn was saying that Screencastify is a way that the other people who aren't the hosts can record their screen and like still record their breakout session. I'm not sure how that all works. I haven't used it before, but that was something she suggested.
Okay. So you guys are looking into that?
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm assuming it doesn't, well, it might cost money.
Yeah, so I don't know, actually, that's a good point.
So I mean, I guess the fallback,
If
of
it's
course, is
free,
then just-
definitely.
Yeah. Is it?
I don't know. I can look
Okay.
it up, but
Yeah, if it's free, yay. If it costs money, that's complicated.
Mhm.
But I mean, we've always had pretty good, I think, methods of capturing commentary.
and we're gonna have note takers, I think, so there'll definitely be minutes. Those breakout sessions will definitely be recorded, just maybe not typical, you know?
Okay,
And we
great.
could have a Padlet for people who might not feel as comfortable even in the smaller groups putting comments up. I have never used it yet. We were going to use it last night, but that fell through. But it's Noelle and a few other people use it. I know my kids use it, and it's like
Okay.
a sticky note where they can put stuff on. So we could probably try to set that up as well.
We love sticky notes. So it like recreates our obsession with sticky notes in real life in the virtual space.
A parking lot now.
I love
It won't be
it.
a parking
Okay.
lot, but a place to put things. So
That's cool. That's cool. Okay. I'm interested to see what that looks like. I guess maybe at some point we'll do a run through, maybe at one of our planning meetings. Should do a run through.
practice, yeah.
Okay. So that all sounds good. And my understanding is I still think of Tika as sort of the thought leader on this and the point person. So I don't know if we're coordinating with her like that, or how is that working in terms of staff coordination?
I'm not sure. I don't know if she thinks of herself as the
As the
point
person.
person.
Okay. Okay. Shall I speak to her?
Sure.
She's okay with like working, I guess, I don't know, Haley, with you. I mean, are you really taking that all on at this point, Haley? Just in terms of noting what we're going to do and planning what we're going to do.
Mhm.
So maybe if you guys could, be the point people for each other, would that be more helpful?
Sure.
You can try it.
I mean, yeah.
Okay. Okay. That seems pretty straightforward. Anybody have any thoughts or questions about that? Okay, cool. Nice. Oh, I'm trying to scroll and I can't. Okay. So
I'll
December 10th, we've gone through, oh, well, I guess we didn't go through this before. All right, we've got a pretty clear agenda for what we need to accomplish on the 10th.
And
welcome
I
to
also completely wrote this agenda. This didn't have input from people, so I'm
Okay.
looking for total input. This was just what my brain thought of. So
right. Basic,
Yeah.
what needs to get
Mhm.
accomplished, right?
Mhm.
Think we have to be clear what exactly, before going into it, we are asking each consortium vote to be on.
So the motion should be predetermined.
Mhm. Because remember last time when we were voting on the educators, it was a little like
hairy.
conditional. It was
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah, that's absolutely. Yeah,
Right.
we had talked about it, but we hadn't like written it. And I think writing it so we
Mhm.
can like pop it on the screen could be
Yeah.
extremely, yes, okay, I agree. So maybe make a note of that consortium vote on motions. And it doesn't mean that we can't wordsmith them if that is something that folks want to do, but I think having a clearly written motion to work with will be a lot less confusing than that was.
I see
Matt?
Matt raised his hand.
Go, Matt, go.
Yeah, just along those lines, I mean, ideally, it would be something that would be in the form of the actual recommendation to the governor and general assembly. And, at the end of the meeting, we'd be able to, have somebody put the three of them together into one document. But that would, I don't know if that's feasible. But that would be the ideal thing, is for people to actually see something pretty close to what we would be, dropping in their mailbox.
Mm-hmm. Makes sense. That makes sense to me. And I would expect we might even have multiple motions for each, or one or two, right? Because I feel like, does educators have more than one?
We have 2 recommendations.
Yeah. So I would assume there'd be 2 motions there, unless it's like, I think to Matt's point, as opposed to like motion to adopt our recommendations, it's maybe make it super clear. There's a motion on a very specific front.
Motion to adopt this recommendation on
You
developing a grow our own
Yes.
program and presenting it to the governor and the general assembly
Mhm.
as is, or however
I think just motion to adopt our recommendation to, advance or grow our own program. And then, as Matt said, then that ties directly, obviously, to the document that we're gonna want to share that briefs people on what we recommended. And it's, advance or grow your own program, grow our own. I think that makes sense to make sure it's really clear on each sort of action, whatever word we want to use, action track. Okay. I mean, we're less than a month out. I mean, it seems pretty cut and dry to me. I mean, we have a very specific thing to do. I think people will also be very focused on like, let's get this done, as opposed to a lot of flowery stuff for this meeting, because we'll start be feeling all the holiday feelings, and just really want to make it very much about business. So we don't really need any other flowery stuff or report outs on any other items. I think we just need to get the recommendations solidified so that we can make it clear to everyone else that those are solid recommendations of the full body and get everything that we need to support them. Okay.
And I think the goal is to get as much possible out the week prior or as
Yeah.
soon as possible. It's not going to be the day of. It'll be
Yeah.
whenever we have something final to post, we'll post it.
Yeah, I think the goal is always a week out, and sometimes that gets fudged by reality, but I think the goal in my mind is always a week out everything. And so I would think those motions would come along with that. Right?
Yep.
Okay, cool. Because it would be part of the presentation. Okay. I don't really have any objections to this. I guess we'll see if something changes between now and next week. It's always possible. But that seems pretty straightforward to me. Okay. All right. So membership. So we know we have at least one membership change to grapple with, because Senator Anthony Del Colo was defeated in his race. And so we no longer have an appointed member of the Senate Minority Caucus, the Republicans. So I need to have some conversations with the minority leader, Gerald Hawker, and find out who might be appointed to that role. And then I think that will not become official until we have a president pro tem who can do that. And that won't be until we are all back in session in mid-January.
So how would that kind of go with quorum and voting then? I guess it's still a spot. So if we have 24 members, we'd have to have 13 to be a quorum and to pass anything, right?
Matt, do you have any thoughts on that? I guess we can just send that question to our lawyer friends.
I mean, whether we can have a town hall if we don't have a quorum?
No, just so
Both,
when we have our
yeah.
consortium meeting on the 10th, just knowing like the Del Colo is not there anymore,
Vacancy.
that technically puts us at 23 people, but we have 24 slots.
Yeah.
I think it goes by the slots,
That's what I thought.
but
Okay.
hopefully attendance will be so overwhelming that we won't have to worry about it.
When you say you hope it'll be by the slots, do you mean like filled seats? It's a quorum of filled seats? Or it's a
No, I
quorum
think
of-
we're stuck with the number of
Okay.
seats that are set out. So we're just kind of, we're just a little more challenged to meet quorum, but
Okay.
so yeah,
Okay.
we might want to, it wouldn't be the worst thing to send a reminder to members that it's an important meeting where actual recommendations are going to get made and, that they need to be there.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. I hope folks know that. But it couldn't hurt maybe to have, for us to maybe even to call them or text them personally and make sure that's very clear. And when I say we, I mean me and Matt. So, okay. So that's one vacancy. Yes, there's cabinet changes occurring. I don't know that that is impacting
They're not voting.
any
The
of our
ones that are
appointees. Sorry.
I was gonna say, I think the ones that are changing are ex officio, so they don't
Right.
count
OMB.
anyway.
Mhm.
in the quorum, sorry, they count.
Oh, are you talking
They-
about, you're talking about Mike Jackson?
Mhm.
Sorry, I'm like, nobody's affecting us. I'm like, oh, wait a minute, of course. it is.
So it was
Um,
basically a new,
Yes,
Another new person.
yeah, they are ex officio and by role, so essentially when, it's not just like with Dusty to Jeff, it's like when the thing happens, it happens, so. we
probably
just
have to reach out to the new person and let them know that they're serving on this.
Right, and again, I'm not sure what Mike Jackson's last day is, but I assume it's not until we're able to confirm the new positions, although that's a director position, so, anyway, yeah, we'll have to check on that, but it's not voting, so we don't have to worry about that aspect at least. Other changes to membership, yeah, I think we need to do our attendance and engagement review and, you know, figure out where are we missing those roles. And I see there's a question. Yes, there's a just as all is outlined in the initial legislation. There are business representatives, there are parent representatives, and community roles. And we have sort of a mixed bag of engagement from probably a lot of different roles, but I would say particularly those. So I think there are some potential vacancies for us to be considering. You know, obviously we would reach out to those people and figure out what's up and, you know, let them know about what's going on and the need for active membership in that role prior to taking any next step, whether it's, you know.
What
counseling.
if Haley and I we look at who it is and send it to you and Matt?
That would be great.
Does that
Yeah.
work? Because I
Yeah,
know
I mean,
from
I
like my work group who's
Yeah.
it is. But
Okay, that would be great. Yeah, we just need to know where's our chronic absenteeism happening and, you know, by name and I think role in the legislation as to what spot they're supposed to fill. Because I think that'll help us think through, you know, as we reach out to them and ask them what they would like to do next. It'll also help us think through potential replacements. Okay. Anything else on membership? Any other questions? Okay, so the settlement subgroup, I have spoken to Aaron Bass. He has expressed interest. I wanted to have further conversations with him and Nandi and Eugene in talking about who might work with him as co-leader. I know he has ideas that I think can then, I mean, is that something that we want to present? I don't want to add necessarily to our December 10th plate, but is that sort of something that we don't need to confirm that choice. I mean, that's just something that chairs decide. I mean, certainly it could be, we can mention it. And if it's decided by then, which it should be.
Yeah, that could go in path forward, I guess,
forward.
maybe.
Yeah, exactly. Okay.
Yeah.
All right, that sounds good. So I think there's a pretty strong likelihood that he will lead that charge. And we should know soon with whom he would be leading it. How would the subgroup function? I know, you know, obviously in our broader public meeting, we talked about it being a subgroup. Do we want to talk about how that would work? I mean, I guess in my mind, if we structure it so that it's a subgroup to funding and governance, it's doing a set of work like every committee is doing, but then instead of reporting directly to the full consortium, it's reporting to that subcommittee. Right? So I guess my question would be, does that hinder its ability to function or does that help its ability to function? If it's checking in with a group that maybe meets more regularly, but then also does it hinder its ability to liaise across the work groups? Any thoughts? Any preferences? I mean, maybe it doesn't matter. Maybe we're overthinking it.
Well, I think another thing is we're thinking of it as everything stands at this moment. And I think we also need to think of where is the consortium going to be in the next 6 months? Because technically the group they would fall under is the funding and governance, or governance and funding, whichever way you say it. And if redistricting starts coming back in full speed, do we break them into two groups? Have a governance and a funding, and
Right.
then they all work together as part of that. I think it's
Yeah,
just,
we always have that option. I mean, I don't know. I guess I'm looking to see if anyone has any strong concerns about one structure over another. I don't at this point, because I think we all work pretty closely and consistently together. Again, the only difference is that if the settlement committee is interfacing with the funding and governance committee and they're meeting monthly instead of every other month, or more frequently than that, that gives them more report out opportunity. I mean, that's kind of the only advantage I guess I could think of. I don't even know if it's an advantage.
I think it might make more sense for it to be its own work group.
Right.
Just because like subgroup to me, like it's gonna have new leadership and new membership anyway. So it's not really technically a subgroup. It's just related to fund. I don't know. Like I think it might make sense for it to be its own thing.
Okay. Does that, and again, I know we talked about this too, and maybe it's 6 of one, half a dozen of another. Does that impact sort of the capacity to manage it in a different way, or is it just kind of, it's just semantics?
I
Maybe-
think it makes it, well, either way, they're going to have their own agendas, their own minutes, their own content. So I think the capacity increases anyway. So yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, that's helpful because I mean, if it sort of eliminates the illusions that it's like, well, it's easier to manage if it's underneath this other one that already has a structure,
So
which, no. And then, you know, if I don't know if that there is any utility that I'm hearing people hearing it resonate with people that they have sort of that closer relationship with funding and
No, but-
governance.
I think it would be like, they would still have that relationship because my guess is whoever's leading it would still liaise with either Eugene or Namdi, or one of them would be on the meet in that group as it is. Somebody from educator will probably, depending upon who we choose, be
Right.
on there.
Right.
I think we just have to think through that and who would be available and have that flexibility to really be part of that group.
Right. I mean, basically it's a set of people from all the work groups, right?
Mhm.
Okay.
And possibly some others too,
Mhm.
that aren't necessarily consortium or current work group members.
Okay.
Thinking about, I mean, granted, the consortium is Northern Newcastle County, but do we bring the perspective of anything else, any other parts of the state in?
Right.
Or somebody has a conversation with them,
Good point.
or bring them in for certain meetings. I don't know. That's just, I think, a bigger picture we have to think about.
Right.
with
Well, and
this.
that's a good point. And likely, actually, I think there's no way it can't be this way, but depending on who is chosen to be our minority Senate Minority Caucus member, they're going to be from downstate. We don't have any other options. So that's maybe it's a good timing. I'm sure they'll, and good time for us to still be Zooming for their sake. So,
Well, and you have to also, and I mean, I go back and forth with having statewide representation with this, just this piece because of our charge, but also the chiefs talk with each other.
mhm,
If
mhm.
DSCA is on it, they represent the whole state. So we just have to just be specific,
Yeah. Okay. I'm gonna think about that.
purposeful.
Yes. All right. So we'll continue to hone in on that. I like as of right now, just with that feedback, I'm absolutely comfortable with it being a standalone. And I guess at that point, that would mean Matt and I need to be the ones really leading on deciding who's going to lead it. So we'll have to have a conversation about that and some of its other functionalities and
And when you want it up and going, considering looking between now and the end of the year, people are going to start disengaging in the next 2 or 3 weeks. So
Sure. Yes, I know the clock is ticking. And all right, that's good. And I think I saw a couple.
Quick-
in terms
Quick
of-
question.
Yeah. go
How
ahead,
many
Eugene.
people are we looking to fill on this subcommittee? And would it just be, it would be a variety of people, some from the current work group and some from outside of? Or just maybe, I know we talked about this before, but I just want to make sure I'm, you know, I guess I'm thinking the same thing.
I mean, I would welcome your thoughts. I mean, I think where we've just left it, it's for Matt and I to kind of to do a little bit more design with it.
Sure.
I would expect it to be a mix. I don't know how
Got
many people. I don't know the answer yet.
Okay. No, I was just wondering. I was just wondering, especially as Haley brought up the point that it would take the same amount just to manage.
Mhm.
I'm just trying, I'm just thinking about it in my head, but
Yeah.
sounds good. Sounds good.
Any thoughts you have, send them my way and
Okay.
or Matt's way, and so we can pin it down. I mean, I don't think it needs to be some huge group. I'll just put that out there. I don't think we need 20 people on a settlement committee. I think I'm thinking more like 6 people or.
Smaller group.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. This is just thought process stuff.
Yeah.
6 people, broad, as broad representation as we can get with that. And yeah. And I think they will be focused, like we talked about this in the larger meeting, first of all, we just kind of need to look at the timeline of what the expectation is of when these need to be met. And then on each of those dimensions, how we're going to support meeting and maybe exceeding what the settlement calls for. In terms of, well, I don't know if that's on our list, but in terms of like redistricting, just I see the question in the chat. We don't know yet. That was on our list to revisit in the new year. We're focused on getting through our current recommendations, and we don't have any recommendations in that space. So that will be something that we talk about when we get on the other side of the new year. And then I guess we'll have to see if it's something that can be pulled together. I mean, our priority in the redistricting space is to refile legislation that actually gives us power to do that again, because we run out pretty fast. So, okay. Updates.
We attempted to have an educator meeting last night, and we were one shy of a quorum because of just many different conflicts, even despite it being just getting to be that time of year. So we are trying to reschedule for next week. I was reading up, refreshing my brain on the FOIA rules, and it says reschedule meetings as long as they're rescheduled within a week. Just have to have 24 hours notice. So as soon as I get doodle information from everybody, it will be up and going. Right now, I think it's looking like Tuesday or Wednesday.
Okay.
So Mike and Noelle are helping to reach out and just make sure we can get everybody together.
Okay, that sounds good. Hopefully, I know it is hard. I noticed I've had lower numbers in my Zoom classes yesterday too. I don't know, there was something in the air yesterday. People were hiding out, so. Okay. All right, funding and governance. Any new news in advance of the next meeting?
I don't think we have any new news. I know I couldn't make our previous meeting, but we obviously with some of the meeting changes that we've had to make, I think there's a couple internal meetings that we're going to have in preparation. So I can certainly send an update as we get ready for like the 17th.
Sounds good, Jimmy. There we go. And social determinants, any movement?
I don't know if Jason's on or not. He can jump in if he is.
Yeah.
I'm on. There's not much new to update from last time. We do have a meeting on the 30th coming up, so that's stay tuned. Thanks.
Okay, so good. Thank you. Cool. All right, public engagement. Well, that's our town hall, right? So that is moving forward at pace. I guess I'll just make sure my question on the public engagement would be, and I think this is sort of a Tika question as well. and maybe someone else on the call that I'm not seeing, making sure that we're pulling the organizations that we think would be best positioned to help us draw an audience, particularly an audience of communities we consider to be the most impacted by our work. So I guess that would be the one thing is lingering in my mind about the town hall, is that it's great that we have it on the calendar and we're moving towards that, but we have to make sure we get people to show up. And I think that's through, partnering with the Urban League, or really probably just to start with the organizations represented on the consortium, that everyone is letting folks know that's happening and encouraging them to share that with their constituencies and get them out. Does that make sense? And I think that's maybe a Tika, Haley and me conversation, just to make sure if she has the bandwidth to help us make sure that's happening.
Yeah, and I sent an email out, I think yesterday, for us to all, me, you, Tika, and my student Alexis is going to join us, but to talk about public engagement and communications just in general. So
Perfect. I didn't even see that. So that's see how well my engagement is going. Okay, great. Thank you for letting me know it's in there. I'll look for it today. Cool. All right. Well, I think we got through everything pretty quickly, which is amazing. Anybody else have any questions or comments of things that we missed before we move to public comment? Okay. All right. I think, Amy, did you wish to give a public comment?
No, I think I'm okay. Thank you.
Yeah, you've given us a lot of good feedback in the chat too. All right, cool. Well, then I think we're good, everybody. All right. I will reach out to Hawker and Bass and Matt and then we'll and Tika, we'll touch base. All right, cool. All right, everybody, enjoy the rest of your Friday. Try to have a relaxing
Thanks.
weekend.
you too.
See you
Bye.
later.